Talking Trash. Kennedy Brown. Zovia. HWA Manager Northgate Manor. Things in Northgate Manor has always seemed like an extended family. Of course you had the elderly neighbors, especially Ms. Diane, Ms. Yvonne, and Ms. Magnolia, who everyone calls Mama Maggie, and true to hood legends, they have been living in Northgate since the early 70s. Each were widows, but had enough family visits from their kids and grandkids that it should have kept them out of everyone else's business, but it didn't. You have your low-level street pharmacist whose only honor was, as they put it, I don't sell to women or kids, as if that granted a Nobel Peace Prize. The kids that once littered the sidewalks back in the day with candy wrappers and soda cans, which the three elderly ladies would make them stop and pick right back up, were now adults, and the ones who now had their own kids are still here. But now in this day and age, kids all stayed inside with their PlayStation, Xboxes, or all the other gadgets that kept them content and inside. Young people no longer fraternized while waiting on the school bus. Everyone was too glued to their mobile phones while waiting for their long yellow version of a Hummer to collect them and whisk them away to either East Greer, Greer Middle, Greer High. If you lived on the next block, you would walk from the adjoining neighborhood. Of course you have your stay-home mom, single mom, bachelor or married man from here to there, with wives' eyes and talons ready to go off anytime you looked at their men too long, or men accusing their wives of flirting. But it is no biggie, love thy neighbor, was something the residents Northgate Manor always held as their mantra. That is until Army wife Sharell Cox moved in while her husband, Lamont, served in the Marines. Sharell and her two teenage sons moved into the apartment complex. While their house in Welford was being built, they moved from Charleston a little after Lamont left for his tour of duty. At least her two boys, Kyle and Tyler, had helped her move in, yet and still it took her a full week to move everything in, but she did. After all, she wanted everything to be perfect for Lamont when he completed his tour. I don't know why it never dawned on either of them that the house would be built long before he was scheduled to return, but I guess some people wouldn't want to trust a storage company with her high-end furniture, and when she moved in, of course a few of the men around here helped out, and you could see that homegirl was high maintenance. At first impression you would think she was high-strung and standoffish, but once I got to know her, she seemed like the type of friend you wanted to chat with over lunch. So the day she came into the office to pay her monthly rent, I was about to head out to have lunch with the other two property managers, Jezzlyn and Nikki Lisa. Sharell rushed in looking like she had just stepped out of the pages of Source magazine, not a hair out of place. I had only had conversations with her via email and property management, and when she stepped inside she said, "Girl, I am glad I caught y'all before you left. I want to pay up front for 2 more months." Nikki Lisa laughed and said, "Well, damn, if you in that big of a rush to give away money, hook a sister up." To my and Jezzlyn's surprise, Sharell laughed and said, "I wanted to pay before I take my ass grocery shopping. Those two boys will eat the whole out of a damn donut, and if I had gone to the store first I would be broke." Nikki Lisa said, "Trust been there. Hell, mine decided to go to college, so I am still there." We all laughed, even Jezzlyn, who had one more time to call in sick or late, or she was gonna be unemployed. "You ladies going to lunch? I wanna go." Sharell shrieked. I know that it's always hard adjusting, so we welcomed her to join us. "Yeah, if I didn't pay you today, I would be in here begging and crying like the girl Ticey was doing the other day. If she stopped letting that Johnny guy come and live off her, she would do a lot better." Sharell cackled. We had not even gotten into her Chevy Equinox, and I already knew. Sharell lived her life gossiping and talking trash. But how will she take it when the gossip she loves to crave will not be so tasty when the gossip about her is the truth and nothing but the truth? Jezzlyn. Faster than S*** runs through a goose. I knew Sharell was forever gossiping about someone in her housing section, but for her to air Ticey out like that was foul. I mean, I hardly know the girl personally, but I have heard her backstory, and truth be told, she didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. But had the complex property owner, Pierre Brown, she could get Ticey evicted. I mean, come on, she is young and he is fresh out of the penitentiary, and we know how it is in this day and age. Most of these housing units are occupied by young single mothers, and of course they had overnight visitors in their beds. But if Mr. Brown finds out, they would be taken to court, ordered to pay their own rent to keep the apartment, or get a 30 days notice to vacate. But in his defense, he is a fair man and he gives a 15-day grace period to pay rent to tenants who are not on assistance. Not to put anyone's business out there, but as far as I know, nobody here has actually been evicted due to rent. But if you have too much commotion or fighting, especially with a firearm, your ass gets no court date, only 10 minutes to get the hell out. So the info Sharell shrieked to us has caused me to watch her ass with the peripheral vision I am graced with, but I too would soon find out that I have been a subject of Sharell's mouth and gossip, and everyone wanted to sip the hot tea Sharell was serving, only to run back and fill my cup with the things she said. And what was said is I am a deadbeat mother and pedophile, all due to the fact my parents are raising my son Ammon, whose dad was just 17 years old at the time and I was 23, but despite his age, he played my ass with the precision of a full-grown man. Then he let his parents have a restraining order on me, had me arrested, and made me register as a sex offender. Of course my co-workers know the details, but didn't judge me. Mr. Brown knows too, but he hired me anyway, and trusted me enough to let me be appointed to assistant manager. But I am gonna let Sharell slide on the gossip she is spreading this time because I don't want her to know my girls Tashi and Veronica had come back telling me what had been said about me. But if she does it again, I am gonna walk a damn dog on her poser ass. Nikki Lisa. The type of female you can't trust. Sharell Cox has more mouth than a cat has ass. I don't know what she has to gain by telling me shit about Jezzlyn that I already know. However, I didn't tell her I knew. I just wanted to hear her extended version. Jezzlyn may be on the verge of getting fired at next month's evaluation, but Jezzlyn didn't know and she damn sure wasn't gonna tell her. She kept weighing in on the fact Jezzlyn's parents are raising Jezzlyn's son, who was fathered by a guy who was in high school and too young to date Jezzlyn, let alone get her pregnant. And in Sharell tells it Jezzlyn was arrested for sexual assault on a boy who still attended Comic-Con conventions, which is a bald-faced lie. Not only is Sharell self-centered, she is a hater and I seem to be the one she is hating on. So I changed the entire subject. Sharell seemed kind of offensive of each and everything I said, not wanting to let the tears flow. But I have 3 sisters and I can tell when something is wrong with not just my biology sisters but my sisters, and I can sense when something isn't right and trust. Something was off about Sharell. Hell, something is wrong with anyone who has nothing to do but worry about what's going on in the next person's home. I have my own life to live. I don't try to keep up with the Joneses, because they were probably struggling too before they became a moniker for the upwardly mobile. But Sharell started gossiping about people as soon as her key unlocked her apartment. She began worrying about Tycee and her boyfriend Johnny, who was living with, and since he has no job, also living off Tycee and her welfare benefits. Sharell decided to tell us the things she heard between Tycee and Johnny, and the day Tycee was in the office asking for another week to pay her rent, and got approved to do so, Sharell was in the office that day putting in an order for her central air to be repaired. But what she had heard through her walls was Johnny had made her pay his restitution for the month, and according to Sharell, he threatened to have another woman who would not only pay it, she would take him in also. Sharell claims first Tycee begged him not to go, promising him her check when it came so he could pay it. She also told us that Johnny's ex-wife has custody of Tycee and Johnny's 3 kids, because when Johnny was still married, he wasn't paying child support for the children he had with her while he was married, and Tycee one day just up and left her kids Johnny's wife, who just kept them even though Johnny, who was still with his wife, was livid that his wife decided to keep the kids and kick Johnny out. I knew the problem with Sharell. She always tried to gossip about every tenant and their messed up relationships, and I figured out that although Sharell is married, and her husband is in the armed forces and is on a tour of duty, but the only woman who worries about another woman's man has no man herself. Sharell. Not one to go around spreading rumors. Here I am, right smack dab in Northgate Manor. It's a nice place to live, if you have to. But I don't plan to be here long. My house is being built in Welford, so I really don't plan to make friends with anyone, just like in Charleston, when we lived in a 2-story brick house and 2-car garage, and 4 bedrooms. I knew people were jealous of the fact that Lamont and I were living so lavishly on his government wages from the Marines. In fact, he had retiring, but decided to re-enlist in order for us to be well affluent and secure. Of course, I wasn't too thrilled about him doing this, but what really got me is that he didn't discuss this with me before making the decision. Then he drops the bomb that we would be moving from Charleston to Welford, South Carolina. He took the boys and I to see where the house is being built. So far the foundation and bricks were being laid for the setting of our future 4-bedroom house. I was happy to know he was looking into our family's future. After all, Kyle and Tyler were 15 and 17 and would soon be out of the house and into college. But when he told me he had to report to the base in 20 days, and the kids and I would have to live in an apartment complex, since our home in Charleston has been sold, and that he had already paid a deposit on an apartment in Greer, South Carolina, Northgate Manor, I was livid. I have never lived in an apartment before, because the place just seemed to offer no privacy. The walls were so thin, I could hear arguing on both sides. Ticey and Johnny both trifling and toxic. Trey and his wife, Ronica, were always fighting over his philandering, and her drinking. The more he came home late, the more Ronica drank, the less he came home. He would always throw it in her face, that he could always go to his mama's house. Older couple Tony and Donna, who argued relentlessly about Donna giving his hard-earned money to their adult children, who were now out on their own but still hit them up for money, and Donna could never seem to say no. But run into at the mailbox, she smiles and talks about her husband and her beautiful kids. But I laughed inside knowing I heard a whole damn scream fest the night before through these thin-ass walls. I guess when you have been married over 40 years you stick it out. You may argue but you hang tight, but I think their arguments stem from his Viagra not kicking in or lasting long enough. But I just laughed at the thought. Donna is deprived from the hell, as long as they have been a couple, Donna should be happy for the time out. After she has menopause written all into her energy. And then we have the Golden Girls, Ms. Diane, Ms. Yvonne, and Ms. Magnolia. They gather on Ms. Diane's porch just to sit and talk among themselves about people. They wave at me but never speak, they just smile and glare at you from the porch, but there are stories there also. It is rumored that Ms. Yvonne killed a woman years ago for throwing dirty dishwater on Ms. Yvonne's church clothes, Ms. Diane's second husband, after her first husband's death in 1999. 4 years later, Ms. Yvonne met and married a guy named George Preston who was bisexual. And that is what he did, he would buy sex from men with Ms. Yvonne's money. When she found out she was livid and heartbroken, George apologized for hurting her, promising to be with her and only her. But he eventually had yet another bisexual encounter. He felt so bad that he became so stressed that he died at home in bed. Ms. Yvonne told the paramedics that they were both sleeping. She got up to go to the bathroom and found George unresponsive. It was ruled that he died of natural causes in bed. But I heard Ms. Yvonne smothered him with a pillow, no evidence. Ms. Magnolia was pretty much the most unspoken of the three, but she too has a story. Her late husband, Robert, died in prison for killing a guy for stealing his money at a poker game at the Sugar Shack. But as I said, my stay here is only temporary. So as I said, I am not looking to make friends, but I also know that living here is like a reality show that should be named Hood Love and Heartbreak because that is all I have seen since I moved in. The 3 property managers are cool, but what I don't like is since I live here, whenever the 4 of go out for lunch, they seem to make me feel like I am beneath them since they control, write up, and sign evictions on everyone who gets evicted, so they really just talk among themselves. At a lunch I paid for, not so much Zovia or Nikki Lisa, but Jezzlyn seems to have a major attitude. But I know that she has her own shit to dig through, starting with her having a baby she seems to care nothing for, by an underage baby daddy who seems to care nothing for her. He not only told her he didn't want her, he showed her. He not only let his parents get a restraining order on her, and they had her arrested, and while she is at work she was not allowed to enter any apartment with underage children, because they also had her arrested as a sex offender. So I guess it's wise to let her parents raise her son. But because of the sex offender charge, she can't see her son unless supervised by her parents, which seemed to be a plus in Jezzlyn's world, since she had already as much as given her baby to her parents, so she could do her. And apparently doing her included sneaking around with the same young man, AJ, her son's father, although she is not allowed to contact or see, and any child support will be handled through a caseworker. Yeah, and with all that, she still acts as if she is a professional realtor instead of manager of the complex, and she milks it for all it's worth. That is on the days she actually comes to work. Yeah, this place is full of ratchet bullshit. And it takes bullshit to live here. But while I am here, I am gonna sit back and enjoy the show. Jezzlyn. And so it begins. I was getting out of my car and reaching for my briefcase, when I heard Ticey and Johnny standing in their doorway. While he was standing, she was on the floor holding on to Johnny's sleeve, begging him not to go anywhere. And he was saying to hell with her. She managed to yank him back inside. I walked towards the office, glad that the weather was heading towards fall. I was already an hour late, but I had to be stupid this morning and met with AJ for a quickie. I was taking a chance by seeing and sexing him. His parents have a restraining order to prevent me from being around AJ, but he was just doing that because he was seeing a classmate of his, a chick named Stassi. He even got engaged to her after their graduation but had recently broken up. He told me it was Stassi who made him tell his parents to put all those charges on that led to my arrest. He also told me we had to keep it on the quiet about the 2 of us, and once he reached 21 he could do whatever he wanted, and then we could be together as a family. I know he meant himself, me and our son Ammon, but that wasn't gonna happen due to two things: being a registered sex offender. I couldn't be alone with my own son, that is, unless I moved back home, and that is not an option. My parents still treated me like a child, or should I say more like a ward of the state. My older brother, who we call Scooby, grew and moved out. Trust that is the only way he could taste freedom from overprotective parents like ours. Tea-cake, my younger brother lives in a world of his own, so my parents just shake their heads at him and his flamboyant lifestyle. Nothing Tea-cake does shocks anyone. The kid is something like a fool. Before I could step inside the office, I heard someone walk up behind me and yell my name, Jezzlyn. I turned to see a very angry Ticey walking toward me. Why are you out here telling people? I came into the office crying because Johnny stole my welfare check, and I came in begging for more time to pay my rent? She shrieked. Whoa. First of all, get that bass out your voice like you are Melvin Franklin harmonizing with the Temptations. I haven't said a word about you or your mental health check. Welfare my ass. I don't care what goes on between you and Johnny, plus I can get fired for doing shit like that. I fired back. Yes, you did. Hating ass, I see how you look at Johnny. She fumed. Look at Johnny. Girl, bye. If I looked at him, the thoughts in my head would be lame ass convict wannabe Pablo Escobar ass. And I told you I haven't said a damn thing about you, Johnny, or your crazy check. I shot back. At least he isn't a sex offender. She mused. How do you know that? His wife kicked him out before he could do anything to your kids that she now has custody of. I sneered. You had a baby for a teenager, and gave it to your parents, deadbeat mama ass bitch. Before I knew what happened, I lunged on that bitch like it was Super Bowl Sunday. It didn't dawn on me that Nikki Lisa and Zovia had pulled up in bay trying to stop me from choking the life out her. What the hell is going on? Zovia asked, pulling me off Ticey. She has been going around telling my business about asking for a rent extension, and that Johnny takes my check every month. Ticey sobbed, licking her lip and tasting blood. I don't even care enough about the situation to tell anyone anything about her. Hell, I hardly associate with anyone, let alone tell her business. I yelled. Zovia was still holding me. How's she gonna tell my business when her ass is a deadbeat mama and a damn sex offender? That's why I don't bring my kids to stay overnight. Ticey said. Bitch. You don't bring your kids here because they are no longer yours. Your kids got adopted by someone, and I am glad they did. But I haven't said a damn thing about you. I huffed. Well, one of y'all had to say something. Now Johnny is talking about leaving me because of this shit. Ticey whimpered, as if Johnny leaving was a bad thing. Look, no one in this office said anything about you. That is against company policy, and trust the three of us are not gonna throw our jobs away over what goes on between you and Johnny, but you need to fall back because legally Johnny isn't even supposed to be living with you anyway. Nikki Lisa said. Ticey just stood there looking defeated, but too much of a bitch to just apologize. Well, if it wasn't one of you, who was it? We turned to look in the direction of where we heard laughter. As soon as I saw Sharell, she quickly put her phone to her ear as if she was talking on the phone and not filming the catastrophe she caused. Because no one else gave a damn about Ticey, Johnny, or her crazy check. Nikki Lisa. I did not sign up for this. Just when Zovia and I got Jezzlyn up off beating Ticey down, and everyone had calmed down and separated, Ticey saw Sharell recording the melee, and stalked toward her before anyone could stop her. What the hell is so funny? And you know you were recording us. Ticey screamed. Little girl. I don't have time to record you getting beat down. Most chicks fight over a man. But you over here fighting over what you think somebody said about your man. Better yet, fighting someone who can get both you and your not on the lease ass kicked out. Sharell smirked. And how do you know that? Because you sure didn't ask me. I don't have to ask you because I don't care. But if you want to know, every damn body is out here talking about you. But I don't ask anyone. I get an earful firsthand to the ratchet bullshit you and Johnny go through. Hell, I hear you arguing through these thin-ass walls, and I come outside to go to my car and see your baby. Please don't go routine every damn day. Sharell spar. You are a damn lie. You moved in this complex acting all friendly and stuff just to get into people's building. Well, let me tell you this, everybody knows your ass is not just here temporarily. You take your ass to the mailbox religiously at the same time I go. And I see your ass holding back tears because hubby hasn't written you in the 2 months you have been to. Sounds to me like you are about to be the ex-wife of a Marine. Ticey yelled. That's because there is a new technology known as email, lil girl. Ever hear of it? Sharell looked embarrassed. Yeah, Sharell. Keep telling yourself that. Ticey said. Nikki Lisa, did you say anything about Ticey? Because all I ever said about her is that I was paying my rent 2 months up front because I didn't want to be in the office needing time to pay my rent like Ticey. That was all I said, but it wasn't in the manner of talking about you. Hell, I was the only tenant there the day she came into the office. Sharell backpedaled. Hell no, and I am not about to stand out here squabbling with y'all. I have work to do, but Ticey, word to the wise, if anyone is talking about you, you better make damn sure it doesn't get to Pierre. Because he is about to be on some throw your ass out shit. And Sharell, you know no one in this set or care anything about what goes on in your life or Ticey's, and you can get evicted for starting drama. I advised. I left Sharell and Ticey outside. Long enough for me to see Ticey limping back to her apartment, and Sharell getting into her car laughing. All I can hope for is that she is having a house built and will only be here temporarily, because she was gonna break up many a happy home, and in Ticey's home a chaotic one.